Hi, and welcome to our series about home safety and accessibility. We already tackled some subject like how to prep our home to age in place, to make it our forever home or suitable for anyone with some mobility challenges. We talked about how to select a stair lift or select just a provider for a stair lift. Today, as we are approaching the holiday, we'll focus about how to prep our home to make it accessible and safe for our visitors. Our loved one will visit us for the holiday, whether our seniors or anyone with some mobility challenges. Here we go. So let me first introduce myself very quickly. I'm the president of 101 Mobility. We're experts in mobility and accessibility in Houston, Texas. I have a couple of certifications that pertains to our trade. First, I'm a CHAMP, which stands for Certified Home Assessment and Modification Professional. This is taught by workers' comp, but mostly for people who have been injured at work, which is mostly SBIs and TBIs. Also, I'm a CAPS or a Certified Aging in Place Specialist, which is earned through the National Association of Home Builders. I also serve on the board of the Houston Gerontological Society and of the Houston Area of Continuity of Cares. So it has to be understood that the statistics are really not in our favor here. 1 out of 3 older adults will fall in the next 12 months period. Every 11 seconds or so, an older adult is treated in the ER for a fall, and about every 19-20 minutes, an older adult dies from a fall. So this is definitely what we don't want to happen during the holiday or whenever anyway, but especially while our loved ones are visiting us for the holiday. So we are going to work on this and identify the primary risk areas. Of course, any different in level, such as the porch, the front door, the indoor stairs, any steps, curb, threshold, and so on. And also the bathroom. The bathroom must have all our attention because sometimes it's very challenging to access either the tub or the shower, but it's also slippery when it's wet. It's a place we go in naked, so we are even more vulnerable, and also we tend to access it at nighttime with insufficient lighting and very poor balance. So when it comes to the difference in level, we start with accessing the front door. Very often we have a porch, a few steps, not always equipped with handrails. So maybe this is something we want to think of, adding a couple of handrails or making sure that there is enough to hold on to. When it comes to very high houses like we have due to the new flood plan, in Mayaland, Bel Air, all those houses that have been raised by a few feet, 4, 6 or more, or built high. It's a long stretch of stairs. Maybe you can think of installing some help here. Any threshold, any front door has some have steps that can be uneven, that can be slanted. They might be a little difficult to manage for some of our older seniors. So this is where you may want to look at some threshold ramps. We'll look at threshold ramps a little later. Another area of risk is inside the house. Any thresholds. Most of the time when we go from one room to another, we can have a change in flooring. They are not always even. You want to pay attention to that, especially as we age. We tend to not lift our feet enough or kind of drag our feet a little bit, so that become definitely a hazard. Rugs, especially if they tend to curl, that they are definitely a hazard. So there is an easy fix to that. You may just want to store them away while you have older adults in your home. Or even if they do not curl, you want to make sure that they do not slip. You want to make sure they have, for instance, anti-skid mat underneath. So we'll see the difference between the straight stairs and the curved stairs. If you have a straight stairs, you kind of lucky because there is a fix to this, even temporary. And we'll look also at the bathroom, the tub in particular. There are some situations that can be extremely challenging. We'll see that later. Situation that can be addressed fairly easily. So let's talk about the ramps. You will often hear about the ADA, but ADA does not apply to the home. Why? Because ADA it's really a law about non-discrimination. It really pertains to any public access, either a government building or commercial building. It's about allowing anyone to access the building irrespective of their ability or disability. When it comes to your home, you're not supposed to give access to anyone. You want to give access to the people you expect to visit you, or to yourself, of course. So you do not have to be ADA compliant. However, we do refer to ADA for some guidelines, and especially when it comes to ramps, it's very, very relevant. The rule is not to exceed a grade of 1 foot of travel distance for every inch of rise. Okay, so that will give us the size of the ramp. So for threshold ramp, we call threshold ramp small ramp that are meant to provide easy access from anywhere between half an inch to 4 or 5 inches. From above that, we can go with what we call portable ramps that are fairly easy to carry and install for like a couple steps. Anyway, I would say anywhere between 4 and 16 inches. Beyond that, you want to consider like modular ramps. They come with a handrail. They are more permanent install. That will be up to 30 inches or maybe a little more. The problem is you understand that with 1 foot of travel distance for every inch of rise, it can quickly become a huge system and you will need a lot of real estate. That's why when we go over 2 feet, at some point, if there is not enough room for a big ramp system, we can consider a vertical platform lift, also called a wheelchair lift or porch lift. Outdoor stair lifts are also a possibility. However, when it comes to a need to cover the holiday, this is not a temporary solution in the sense that you can rent an indoor stair lift, you cannot rent an outdoor stair lift. So here we're talking about ramps again, threshold ramps, aluminum threshold ramps. It comes in different sizes, different formats. Some are adjustable, some are not. Fairly limited budget, anywhere between $50 and $250, I would say, depending on the size. And you have also the rubber threshold ramps. They are a little bit more expensive, but also because they are much heavier, they're more material, they are more comfortable as well. So the budget here would be anywhere between $75 to $600, and again, for application anywhere between half an inch to 5 inches rise. Half an inch, you cannot do that with aluminum. So I come back to this 12-to-1 ratio, 1 foot of travel for 1 inch of rise. So I understand that if we go up 2 steps, which is about 15, 16 inches, so we need a 15-foot ramp. If we go up like 2 feet, now we need a 24, 25 foot of ramp. If we go up 4 feet, now it's a 48 foot of ramp plus the turning platforms and a resting platform. So this is a lot of real estate, a big footprint, and also a large cost. This is a lot of aluminum. So portable ramps. Going up a couple steps, we can use a portable ramp. This is very temporary. Here on this picture, we have 3 steps, which means we have roughly 22 inches, and we have 8-foot ramp. Do we have the 12-to-1 ratio? No. So that means it's really temporary. It's not for someone to wheel himself or herself up. It will be for someone to push a wheelchair, and the caregiver better be strong and the patient not too heavy. But it works, and you can just store that in the garage after. You can also carry it in the car. Budget of those ramp, anywhere between $150 and $900. Depending on the length, it goes from 3 to 10 foot roughly, and also you can rent. You can rent a 4, 5, 6, or 8 foot ramp. This is a portable ramps, modular ramp, sorry. For when you go a little higher or for a little more specific application, come with handrails. They can rent that. It's but the cost of installation is a little bit more important, of course. The budget for systems, depending on the size, of course, is anywhere between mostly between $1,200 and $8,000, including installation. And as far as the rental goes, it's anywhere between $100 and $500 a month, plus installation and a removal fee, of course. A vertical platform lift is a correct name for what is commonly called a porch lift or a wheelchair lift. This could be a temporary solution. It is possible to rent a vertical platform lift. However, you have to understand that on the landing, we'll have to have an opening in the railing. So that means we'll have to cut the railing anyway, if there is a railing, or maybe if there is no railing, it's even easier. But other than that, it is possible to rent a short, small, straight-through vertical platform lift. If you were to buy this kind of equipment, depending on the specification, the size, and a couple of options, it's anywhere between $9,000 and $15,000. As far as the rental of a very simple one, straight one, that would be $400 a month, but you have an install and removal fee of about $1,500. So it's not just for the weekend, more, but you may want to do that maybe to cover all the period from Thanksgiving throughout New Year. A couple of other pictures showing a wheelchair lift or vertical platform lift application to access a porch. So, stair lift, we'll see that we have two different animals. They are both called stair lift, but we have the straight stair lift for straight staircases and curved stair lift for curved staircases. We'll look at elevators. There are a couple of options here. Of course, not a temporary solution, and you cannot rent an elevator. Stair lift. So straight stair lift, the good news is that you can rent a straight stair lift. However, you want to understand that it is attached to the floor. On the picture on the right, you can see it through the carpet. The good news here, when you remove that lift, you don't see nothing. You just have to brush the carpet, vacuum the carpet a couple of times, and the print of the feet will go away. You won't see nothing. However, on the hardwood, like on the picture on the left, you will end up with some holes in certain steps. Not all the steps, but several steps will have like 4 holes in it that will need to be repaired. So as far as rental goes, do you want to be aware of that? Another cost driver is the bottom of the track. You understand that for the chair to go all the way down to the first floor, the track has to go all the way down to the first floor too. Most of the cases, it's not an issue. Some cases, it's across a narrow hallway or a doorway that's just there, like on these pictures. So that will create a trip hazard. You may not want to have that. So there is a fix that's called a folding rail. That section of that bottom section of the track will fold up when the seat goes up, clearing the hallway or the doorway. That's an additional cost. It's about an extra $120 per month if you rent it. Here we have the case of 2 curved staircases. The one on the right, there is no temporary fix. There is no other way than to go with the curved stair lift, but the curved stair lift is a fairly significant investment. In this case, it was a $20,000 investment. It takes a month to get, so definitely not a short-term nor a temporary solution. On the left side, it is also a curved stair lift, and same thing. It's 1 month lead time and about $15,000. So not a temporary solution. However, this staircase is not really curved. It is made of two small straight section with a turn, a 180-degree turn. So worst case scenario, temporary solution could be to rent 2 straight stair lifts. So this is a possibility. Elevators, different type of elevators, definitely an option. But even if you do not have a shaft, meaning even if your home is not elevator ready, but again, it's 2 to 3 months lead time, about $30,000 budget, not short term nor a temporary solution. And of course, you cannot rent an elevator. Okay. In the bathroom now, the first thing we'll think of are grab bars, and we'll see that what really matters in grab bar is not the grab bar itself, but the installation. We'll talk about transfer benches and other solutions, walking tubs. We have mixed feeling about walking tubs, running showers, and so grab bars. As I said, what matters really is the installation. We do not necessarily have blockings behind the location, the place we want to install the grab bar. We most likely we don't hit a stud. Sometimes we may be lucky enough to hit a stud at one end, but that means the other end will not be in a stud. And you don't want to adjust to go to Home Depot and buy even the biggest picture frame anchor, because the next thing you know, you will have to repair your wall. So you really need to have a special anchoring system, or the blocking. But again, most of the time you don't have a blocking. So those anchors are fairly expensive, and also they require a professional installation, and that's really where the cost is. Again, the cost of a grab bar is not in the grab bar itself, it is in the professional installation and anchoring of that grab bar. The other thing you want to have to know, of course you want to rent a grab bar, but you probably don't want your bathroom to look like a rehab center. The good news is there are several line of product of designer grab bar that looks really nice. Some of them being hidden in the form of a toilet paper holder or a towel rack or a shelf. So it doesn't have to be ugly. And they are not that much more expensive. It's reasonable. A very good product for a temporary use will be what we call the super pole with the super bar. It's a tension post between the floor and the ceiling. Doesn't require any modification to the house. If we have a 8-foot ceiling, we don't even need to screw it in the ceiling. And that pole has a horizontal bar that we can swivel by increment of 45 degrees. And this is a great solution for this setting where you have the commode next to the tub, because it can be used for both accessing the commode and the tub. And by the way, when you're on a commode and you want to stand up or even sit on it, it's much easier to pull on something on those bars in front of you than to use a lateral grab bar on the side. So, and the good thing is you can move it a little bit in order to find the sweet spot that really works best for you. So as I said, it can be used for both the commode and the tub. It can also be used by the bed or by the favorite chair. It's really a very versatile product. And again, does not require any modification. Mom goes back to her home after the holiday, just remove it, store it for next year. The tub, of course, we can talk about removing the tub, replacing a walking tub. Not a big fan of the walking tub for different reasons, and I can answer a question about that if you want. But you can keep your tub and provide more access. One solution would be a lift. It's battery powered like this. It allows the older senior to sit on it and then swivel and swing the legs in the bath. and with the remote, the lift will slowly lower the person into the water, down to the bottom of the tub. When you're done, just use the remote to lift out of the water to the height of the wall of the bath of the tub, and then swing the legs out and just either stand up or transfer to a wheelchair. This is fairly affordable. The cost of this is in the magnitude of $1,500, so it's not the end of the world. It can be if you have a senior visiting your home several times a year. I mean, they're definitely worth it. Transfer benches are less expensive. Not exactly the same thing. It won't take you at the bottom of the tub, but at least can take you above the tub for showering in a sitting position. So when you talk about a tub, you can also think of grab bars. Typically what we recommend is a long grab bar on the back wall and a shorter one vertical to help manage the step over the wall of the tub. Otherwise, of course, we can think of removing the tub and creating a roll-in shower like this one. This one was really in the place of this tub. That's the same location. Remove the tub, create that roll-in shower. Of course, it is not cheap. It is not a short-term solution, and it is you cannot rent that. Of course, it's not temporary. But it can be done. You can see how it's done. There is a slight grade towards a linear drain by the back wall. All the water flows nicely to that back drain. And it works very well when it's paired with a weighted shower curtain. What can be done as well is to modify the vanity to create an accessible wheelchair accessible sink. So in this case, not much to do. It was very difficult setting. First 5-inch step up, then a second 7-inch step up to the shower, then a 12-inch step down. Extremely difficult for a lot of people actually. So this one, that what has been done, you can see on the before and after pictures, completely different. Of course, not a temporary solution, not a rental, of course, but that can be done. Same thing, very quickly, a setting that is quite difficult. At least here we had a fairly deep space to work on thanks to this step. We were not limited to the width of the tub, so we can have a 5x4 shower, very comfortable, very accessible. There are also cheaper solution with prefab pan like on this picture. It's a little bit less expensive. Also to save on the tiles, we can go with culture marble that is installed much quicker. Good solution when we are on a budget, which was the case for this house. That obviously is what we call a tear down. You don't want to spend too much money in a house like that. Big detail. There is no point to create accessible shower if you cannot enter the room. And here we had a case. It was not for the homeowner was not wheelchair bound but had a walker but could not get in the bathroom because the walker won't go through that 24-inch door. So we just had to widen the door. Widening the door is anywhere between usually anywhere between $900 and $1,200, depending on whether you have to move electrical switches or things like that. But this is, by the way, this is about the budget and can be done very quickly. Very easy fix, cheap, easy to get everywhere. Walmart, small lights, night lights like that, to make sure that when your loved one stands up at night to go to the bathroom or to the kitchen, it doesn't do that in the dark. Temptation is to not turn the light on because it will be too bright, or not to wake up the loved one in their room. So, and that when the accident happened. It's a time where we don't have a full balance yet. It takes a few seconds or a few minutes sometime to get the full balance. Plus the darkness, This is definitely a big help to make sure that there is a minimum of light, ideally with a motion sensor, and turn the light on just when it detects a motion, and just to allow the senior to get their bearings. In my home, I have these on top of the stairs, so that when we approach the stairs, even in the dark, we can at least automatically locate the first steps. That's really a safety, and it is really easy to install. It's inexpensive. No good reason not to do it. Another example by the commode, of course. So for people who have more serious mobility issue or no mobility at all, so you may need a patient lift, called patient lift, and you will see that some can be rented. So you probably heard about the word Hoyer lift. Hoyer lift means really floor lift. Hoyer is a brand like Kleenex, but the floor lift that can be used to transfer people from a bed to a seat, or even to pick up people on the floor. And then we have also what we call sit to stand, that are specifically to take people from a sitting position, that can be on a bed or a wheelchair, to transfer in an upright position, then in a sitting position again on a different chair, or on the commode, for instance. Or we can have the overhead lift, of course a little bit less versatile, but if you don't need it in several rooms, it can be a solution that can be rented as well. Or the raiser, which is a lift, the purpose of which is solely to pick up someone on the floor. It's sort of a chair, battery-powered chair, that is assembled around the person on the floor, lying on the floor. And when it is assembled with the remote, you just pick up the person with no effort from that laying position on the floor to a sitting position where the person can stand up from. So the floor lift on the left, the regular floor lift on the right, sit to stand, and you can see that the person is being taken upright and then moved around on that plate to another chair or a bed or a commode. One thing important, it's really great for the self-esteem of the person, but it can only work for people who can bear at least 20-25% of their own weight. They don't have to be able to stand themselves, but at least to be able to keep standing if they were put in that position with the help. Overhead ceiling lift. So overhead and ceiling lift, of course, if we also install those ceiling lift on the ceiling, but the big part of it is in the installation. This is not, of course, a very temporary solution, and also the big part of it, and it cannot be rented, of course. And pull lifts are also an option, not available for rental either, but that does exist. So, just as a summary, to mitigate the risk and make the home safe for our loved one over the holiday, think of the lights, think of the floors that has been smooth and not slippery, think of grab bars. Don't forget, grab bars costs in the proper installation, ramps of any kind, stair lift. You can rent an indoor straight stair lift. You cannot rent a curved stair lift. You cannot rent outdoor stair lift. Wheelchair lift, patient lifts, bathroom remodeling, not a temporary solution, of course, but there are also other bathroom safety devices that you can think of, like the tub lift or things like that. And you can also think of personal assistants like Alexa or Google to help remote control devices. So I'll be ready for question now. I'll be more than happy to answer any question you may have. And I remember mentioning walking tub and how we do not recommend walking tub, but if you are interested in that, I will be more than happy to share my ideas.